It's the 100th episode of My First Job, and the people who got me across the finish line, Deepa Ravi
Hi.
and LPS Jayachandran.
Hi,
Two
bro.
people who worked very closely with me in the last 2 years. We had our first episode on December 29th, 2022. We expected to do 2 or 3 episodes, and here we are 2 years later looking at our 100th episode. So, Deepa, what is your take when we started? Did you really think we're going to be doing this?
I don't think we overthought it. I think we just did one episode at a time. We said, okay, who's our guest next week? Who's our guest next week? And before we knew, we were hitting 25 and then 50, and then now we are at 100.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's been amazing. We've had some incredible guests. We've had some really amazing youth panels. So
yeah,
I think every week we have learned something new from
yeah,
whoever the
yeah.
guest was. So, and I do hope a lot of youngsters who actually need to see it get to watch it at some point and have some amazing takeaways from it.
Wonderful. So, JC, I also need to tell you that Deepa is the one who works all the creatives. I occasionally pitch in, but that's very rare. Most of the time, it's Deepa doing the work. And JC or Jayachandran is the one who's been our technical help and archiving. He's the one who ensures that my lighting and the green screens and everything else. So, JC, what's the experience been like for you?
No, it's been an incredible experience, because every episode there is a new guest who is coming in, and we are hearing stories after story. So this is the 100th story is what I am actually going to see today. So it's been an incredible journey, and we are very thankful to you and all the guests who have come to the show as well, because we are able to see the slice of life of every person that we have seen so far. So that's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. And thank you for holding fort and ensuring that we never ran out of guests or we never ran out of, we kept to our deadlines. Thank you. And let's go further. Okay. Let me move ahead with the show now. Okay. So today's guest is an influencer and she's really built her brand. We talk of personal branding, and Ria is going to tell us how exactly she's managed it. She did her schooling at PSBB and graduated in visual communications. Then she did her MBA in Paris and a second master's in digital marketing at Toronto. So she's looking to build a community where everyone gets feels seen and heard. And she looks at the areas of self-care, beauty, and wellness and finding real solutions and relatable stories. Whether it's something about that perfect shade of lipstick or life in general. So, like she said, it's not just about looking good, but about feeling good and building confidence from within. So, we'll understand what her journey was like because she's the best person to tell us that story. Ria, thank you very much for being on the show and welcome to my first job.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor, and I'm so glad it's your 100th episode. So, congratulations on that.
Great. So, you've really qualified in a master's in business administration and digital, worked and studied in two different countries. So
Yes.
tell me what when you started at PSBB to where you are today, what is the kind of arc that you will describe?
Um, I would say more than the studies, like the journey itself has given me so much of experience, a lot of lessons learned, and it's really built me for into the person that I am today. So from the innocent girl in PSBB to the very much experienced girl right now, I'm really proud of my journey.
Okay, okay. So we'll go probably one step at a time. What
Hmm.
drove you to the point in Paris where you did your master's? Were you at that point looking at a so-called, within quotes, conventional career? Because one of my guests corrected me. She said there are no conventional careers. There are careers. And
Yeah.
so, so what was your thinking at that point?
So, first of all, I love traveling.
Okay.
And I, more than going there and studying, I really wanted to understand their culture. So I love Paris, I love France. So I went there to do my master's, and it was a very different kind of education where you have to do everything by yourself. The teachers will not spoon feed you. So, like how they do in India. So that was a huge learning for me. And it was a great experience. I got to explore different kinds of food, different kinds of culture. And yes, it was very hard living away from home, but I just went there for the experience, and I knew I wanted to come back and make my own country a better place to live in.
Okay, great. So you learned French during the time you were there, or
I did
you can manage?
try. I really did try, but it was so hard. It's really hard.
Okay. And then what about Toronto? You decided to do digital marketing there, and
Yeah. So, I wanted to specialize. So I learned marketing in Paris and I wanted to specialize in digital marketing. And I heard that this particular university, York University, that I study in Toronto, they're really good at it. So yet again, I wanted another, I went on a traveling spree and I wanted the exposure. So I went there. I did not like Canada much. So I
okay,
thought, okay, probably I'll just come back. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot there.
yeah. I guess that whole experience of staying away from home and fending for yourself
Oh,
and figuring out all these things, because earlier people
of
used to
course.
just say, go to a hostel. Now they go across countries. So that's the
Yeah.
difference. So that's a major change. So, what is the point of what did you experiment with, Ria? What were you kind of thinking of before you kind of give me a sense of what the social media, you know, field was like and why you gravitated towards it?
So, I am actually a very introverted person, but I
Whoa.
also like, yeah, but I also like
Okay.
putting myself in situations where I break my comfort zone. I
Okay.
had a lot of people, my family and my friends and everyone supporting me to get into this journey. And I also felt like social media is a platform where you have like a solid base to give out your message and your views, your ideas. And yes, it's a very tricky place. You need to be very careful with the words you use. But I thought it could be one place where I can just be myself and
Okay.
not face people directly but indirectly. Yeah.
You have a screen in front of you, and when
Yes.
they interact, there's a screen in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what did you experiment with in terms of content when you started?
So when I started, I had no idea how this has to be done, what has to be, what will make me reach the audience, nothing, like no idea at all. But I just believed that I have to be myself, like no matter what. I shouldn't become somebody else or something else to gain followers or to gain the fame and whatever. So I just started putting myself out there. I started with fashion and then slowly I went into skincare. And then slowly I transitioned into a little bit of makeup and everything. And now I just put everything I feel out there, like everything, like my thoughts, my views, and everything. I just put it out there.
Okay. So this is, I think, a great opportunity for me to bring one of the young people in.
Hi. Hi,
Hi,
Riya.
hi, hi,
This is Movina.
hi. Nice meeting you.
Okay. So this is something that every new influencers would probably, wonder. How do you
Mhm.
stay consistent with your reels, and do you shoot regularly or every day? How does it work?
Okay, good question. So, I was very bad with being consistent because I didn't know what exactly works for my page. But once I started putting out different kinds of things, I understood what my audience likes and what they don't. And to answer your question, I don't really film every day, but when I film, I take at least 2 to 3 videos so I can get sorted for the week. So that's how I stay consistent.
And then what motivates you? Like when you don't feel like, creating something.
I think one thing that really motivates me is the response I get from my audience. The love and the support that I've been receiving recently, it just makes me want to do better, be better, and make a lot more, like videos for them. So, yeah.
So it's the people.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you've kind of, how long have you been doing this, Noria?
I started during the pandemic in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great time to go online because there was
Of
nowhere else
course.
to go.
So it was the prime
Yeah,
time. So we have to
yeah,
make use of
yeah.
that.
Okay, okay. And then where did you said you started with fashion. So what were among the early posts that you did?
Hmm, I would probably talk about accessories, clothes, and I'm very big on body positivity. I don't think a person should be defined or judged by how they look or what size they are, what color they are. So that was something very important that I had to put across, and I wanted to break all those stereotypes. So that's where I started basically.
Okay, okay. So this may be a time to see if we can get Tanya in again. So Tanya, I think your camera's off. Can you put it on?
Yeah. Hi, Ria.
Hi, hi, I can hear you better now.
Yeah, okay, great. So I just have one question, like how you said, like, with regards to body positivity and all that. So did you start from like, is it because you had something happen to you before and then, you realize that, okay, I really have this platform and I can use it to let other people know that, it's not right and, to just like kind of empower them.
So yes, my whole childhood I've been like bullied for being chubby and a lot of other things. I just felt like in social media especially there's this beauty standard that really has to be broken. Not everyone has to look perfect, or there's
Yeah,
no set standard where you have to look this way, that's when people will
yeah,
like you. And I really did not like that ideology at all. So I wanted to break that because nobody is ever going to be perfect in any stage of their life.
yes,
So
yes,
I
yes,
want to break that complex. I want people to understand that everyone has their own way of coping with things. Everyone has their own way of looking. They might feel beautiful in how they are, and somebody else is not the judge of that. So I don't want anyone to have the license to bring someone down to make themselves feel better. So I just wanted to change all of that.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. And I'm glad that you have a space that you can do that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I also think, Ria, that you work to build that space, right? It doesn't come easy because the
Not at all.
competition on Instagram is crazy. So, what do you think actually helped to build that first set of people who tuned into you?
So I think the fact that I had an idea of what I want to do and the target audience, I knew
Okay.
whom I wanted to reach and whose
Okay.
voices, like my voice would be heard by whom. So I had that clear idea that this is my motive. I want to be very real out here. I don't want to have any filters, or I don't want to be another person just so I can impress a few people. So I think that's where I think I started building my community, and it's really, really big and strong now. So I'm very happy about it.
So, what is the transition from, let's say, starting out with 100 to 1,000 to 10,000? Does each milestone feel as if you crossed something big, or you have had your own personal milestones based on the response from people?
So for me, each milestone is very important because it just reassures me that I'm on the right path and
Okay.
I'm not deviating anywhere. It's just been growing, growing and growing. So right now I'm very happy that I'm on the right path, and I will keep continuing to do what I'm doing right now. And I think I've become a lot more open and a lot more comfortable to face the camera and to be a lot more myself for the people.
Hi Ria, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Hi, Aarti. Same here.
Yeah, this is very a basic influencer question. It is like, how do you deal with criticisms and negative feedbacks on social media?
Oh. Yeah, okay. So, at first, criticism and the hate comments and all that did hurt me, and I did take it to heart. But slowly, I just understood that these people have insecurities themselves, and they're just projecting it on you, so they feel better. So there is no it's not right to even engage with them, and it's just better to block them off or ignore them completely because they don't know your journey, they don't know what you're trying to build here, and they have no rights to give in their opinions when it's so harsh and so rude. So I just completely ignore them now. I just think of them as non-existent at this point.
That's a clever way to handle.
The young people towards whom this program is targeted to
Definitely.
actually come and so earlier we opened it up and said ask questions, and
Mhm.
I guess people always have this little, I'm sure you've gone through this where you sort of see what it is like in the first. You're worried about putting anything that you've created out in public to begin with,
Yeah.
and then you acquire that confidence over time, and every single aspect. And that's the thing, that when you start doing it, you know nothing, everything
Yeah.
from how does your voice sound
You
to what
definitely
you
have
look
to
like.
test the waters and then put yourself in.
So do you do that, Ria? Do you sort of create a video, wait for it for a couple of days, and then see, okay, what happens now?
So basically, I believe in thinking before acting
Okay.
because it's very important. Like sometimes impulsive things do work, but it's
Okay.
always better to think of the consequences of what you're going to do, and like probably analyze the situation a little more, pros and cons and everything, and then go for it, so that we don't suffer later. So yeah.
So give me a a quotation or a comment that somebody gave which completely surprised you.
Hmm. I think a lot of comments surprise me, but the ones that say they feel like I'm their comfort place or their safe space, that really makes me so happy because that's exactly what I want to build in my page. Like I want my page to be a safe space for everyone. There's no judgments, nothing. So yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. This is something that, okay, this is going a little away from the overall, but
Hmm.
we didn't have these spaces in a world without the internet. Or let's say your friends were all friends you met, people who lived down the road from you, people you went to school with, people you went to college with, or in the same city. But now you have friends that, and especially as an influencer with over 350,000 followers,
Mm.
I mean, it's amazing how many people you wouldn't know from all the
Yeah.
people who are following you.
That's yeah, that amazes me every day.
So, so what is this relationship about? How is it that you're giving comfort to people? Because is it that when they come and see you, they feel that this is a person I could be friends with, even if she doesn't know me personally? What do you
Yeah.
think is working here?
So I think not a lot of people voice out or express what they feel. They have that fear of judgment, like, oh, if I say this, they're gonna think I'm so weak, or being sensitive is so weak. So a lot of people judge themselves before even speaking anything out. But I think when I talk about these kind of sensitive topics, people feel like their feelings are being heard, and they're being validated for how they feel. And I think they gain a lot more confidence in just being themselves and speaking their heart out. So I feel like the barrier of communication, like we're always told, don't be so sensitive, don't be so cranky, you should be strong, you should be happy all the time. But that's not how it works. Like you have to feel all the emotions. And that's when you feel better instead of bottling things up. So I always think of speaking my heart out in my page, to connect to other people and their life experiences.
So there are times when you get recognized and people walk up to you and then say
Yes.
hello.
I've
What?
had people come up to me and be like, they're like, their hands are shaking and they're like, "Oh, we love you so much. You're like a sister to me." And I'm like, "Well, that's so sweet." But yeah, it's very overwhelming and surreal to even meet people.
When was the first time it happened?
It was at a mall actually. I was just
Okay.
walking by when I had like maybe 10,000 to 8,000 to 10,000 followers. Somebody came
Okay.
up to me and they're like, "I love your work." And she was chubby, so she's like, I've gained confidence to wear clothes confidently after seeing
Yeah.
you. And I was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." And till date, it still surprises me and it makes me so happy that they come up and talk to me.
Yeah. It's a, and this is the other thing that in the earlier, in the world before the internet, I'm sorry, I keep going back to that, but your stars were very clear. Everyone knew who a movie star was or a sports star
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
But in today's world, the child is probably, worships you, and the parent doesn't know because this interaction is on the phone or it's on
yeah,
something which happens. So that I think is a very different dynamic from what used to exist earlier.
yeah.
So there are some people who are extremely well known within a certain facet. So for example,
Hmm.
tech influencers, they might be very
Yeah,
well known within a group of people who do that, but they're
yeah.
not generally. So it's a different shades of fame.
Hmm.
So how do you see this playing out? What are the things that you think will change over time, and how have you changed over time?
Um, I just feel like, along with the children, a lot of parents are trying to mold into this generation and
Okay.
be a lot more open to ideas and a lot of, like social media trends and all of that. And keeping
Okay.
that aside, I think even on social media you get so many tips and tricks and advices, and a lot of influencers who are trying to talk about social causes. So it's, there is a side of social media where it's full on like education for yourself. Like you'll
Right.
get to see a lot of creators who, be it tech, be it social issues, be it health, training, fitness, you have like a vast, like a spectrum of categories where you can learn about so many things. And I really appreciate the other creators who want to make, social media a safe space where people can just come, watch, learn, and just be happy and all of that.
Okay. So when you did your digital marketing course in Toronto, what were the
Mhm.
kind of things that you maybe looked at and said, "Hey, this could be something that I can apply," or did some, spark from there kindle your entire process of creativity, or how you looked at it?
So, in my course, I learned what content creation itself is and how a content should reach its target audience. And something that's really interesting that I learned there was script writing and how a script should be written. It needn't be just for a brand, but if you're generally making a video, it's good to script it out, like this is the first frame, this is the second frame. So I think that helped me a lot. I love writing, so script writing was something that really intrigued me, and it's made my videos a lot better.
Okay. So again, script writing, because we are again in advertising, because that tends to be a, and you're doing what, 2 minute films, 1 minute, 30 seconds? What kind of, or you don't really have to bother
It's
about duration, right?
Yeah, so it's mostly 30 seconds, but sometimes
Okay.
it goes to 50 or 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay. And do you do live sessions with your audience, or?
I don't do it very regularly. I have to start doing that, but I have done it like a couple of times.
Okay. So, what is the difference between a live session? Is it that you feel a little more vulnerable when you're on live as opposed to a video that goes out and then you can watch it grow? Or what is the difference?
So, a live session and a video, the difference is you are not prepared here and you're prepared there. Like, you know what's going to go out. But when it's a live session, you're put in the spot and you have to be like, oh, what should I talk now? Or something like the interview we're having right now. So, yeah, it's not prepared, it's very organic.
Yeah, that's true. And that I think is part of the fun. It may not
Yeah,
go exactly the way you've planned it. And that's the
correct.
good part that I think is true about podcasts and everything else, as opposed to a
Yes,
book
correct.
or a movie which is edited, scripted, and all put
Yes,
out
correct.
there. This is like it just keeps flowing.
Yeah.
So, who are some of the influences that you have kind of looked at and then say, hey, this person is doing a very good job? Or have you seen the same kind of arc with certain people where you say, you can see them struggling at certain points in time, you can empathize with what they're doing? So,
Um,
are there some people like that you?
so I have like a lot. So I take inspiration from each influencer. Like I don't have one particular person.
Right,
I might
right.
resonate with different things with different creators. So I have a lot of, I really appreciate people who are into mental health and body positivity, and also people who are into like, like just making their audience happy. Like they don't really talk about like content or brands or anything. They just come up to the video and they're like, hi, I hope you have a good day. Like that itself makes anyone feel better. So
Okay.
the creators who put well-being over like fame or money or anything, that's what inspires me a lot.
Okay. Great. I think Tanya has one more.
Yeah, hi Ria. I just
Hi.
had one question with regarding to your brand itself, like your
Hmm.
personal brand. So when you
Yeah.
do brand collaborations, right? So how do you ensure that it aligns with your personal values?
Yeah. So when a brand approaches me, I will definitely have like a small background check of what the brand believes. I don't
Hmm.
want to work with a brand that I don't use or I'm not
Hmm.
familiar with, because that's not right. Like
Yeah.
you don't personally use something but you're advertising it, it's not, it's not real at all.
Yeah.
So basically, I go through all of the brands, and if I really like what they stand for or what kind of problems they solve or anything, then that's where I'll be like, okay, I really need to work with this brand. It's got good values, so that's where I start.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Ria.
Thank you.
So, when did the first brand journey begin? What was the first approach? When did somebody approach you and then say, hey, are you willing to do something for us?
So the first brand that approached me was Vilva, and they make organic skincare. And I loved what they stand for. Like they're so sustainable, and I love organic skincare a lot. It's been there for years, like for forever. So that still being there in this generation is so important. So that was my first collaboration.
Okay. And then how do you bring the brand in? Is it normally you build a situation around it, or do you generally lead up to it in a way during a normal post it comes in and then because, like you have brand promotions within movies where it's built into the
Hmm.
plot, as
Yeah.
opposed to an ad which very clearly says, hey, here is the product and here's how you use it.
Yeah.
What has been your approach to promoting brands?
So, what I usually did was I would buy the products myself. I'll use it and I'll make a video like, hi, this is what I use on my hair. So, this shampoo, this conditioner, and I'll tag those brands. So, when I tag those brands, they will recognize me and they'll be like, oh, she's promoting our product without even getting like a payment. So that's when they'll approach, be like, can we send you our new products? Do you want to try it out? And that's how it starts and it builds.
Okay.
Yeah.
You really have to be on top of a lot of trends, right?
Yes, you have to.
So how do you keep abreast of things which are changing on a daily basis where, brands are coming and going? There could be new brands which come in today, and because of various other reasons, distribution is a problem, ensuring that you. So how do you stay on top of some of these things, or you just take it as it comes because that's the way to do it?
Yeah. So, of course, there are a lot of new brands and a lot of new creators coming in.
Right.
But I just feel like we have to find brands that align with our values, and they will be more than happy to work with you because it's a win-win situation. You do what they like and you can present it the way you like. So that's how I feel like I resonate with brands more. I don't work with each and every brand that comes my way because not all of them, align with me. So that's how I do it.
That's an amazing thing to do, Ria, because the best part of what you're saying is that it builds long term credibility. Because it's
Yes.
one thing to cash in on a sudden burst of fame and then say that now that I've reached this, then I'll charge because I've reached a certain value. And maybe this is the part that people don't really get, that,
Yeah.
uh, these two things are so closely
Some
interlinked.
of them
That is,
really do it just for the money, and it'll be very evidently seen that this person is doing it for the money. Like you can see it very clearly. But when someone is not doing it and they have like a lot of genuinity in their content, that will also be visible because everything's transparent. Like there's no, you can't really act a lot there. Yeah.
okay. So, how do you see this evolving, Ria? What is the uh, I know it can't be a grand plan because none of these things in
Mhm.
life, there is no such thing as a grand plan because
Yeah.
you adapt to situations. But what
Yeah.
have you seen are possible areas of growing into, and what are the things that you feel have potential?
Um, so in the stream that I've chosen, I feel like honestly I feel like I'm just starting and I have a long way to go. So I've chosen lifestyle, makeup, and fashion, and I think these three categories will never die. Like
Right.
women or men, they'll always need makeup, and
Very true.
fashion will keep evolving. Even the older, fashion will come back, older styles will come back. So I think it's not going to die very soon. So I have hopes.
Great. What about your own production routine? What has changed in the kind of equipment you use, the cameras, the lighting, and various other things?
Oh.
How have you worked from there?
So I've had to really save up and buy a good phone. And also, I bought a few lighting equipments because sometimes sunlight is not enough. And it's gloomy certain days, and I'll have to finish like a shoot or something. Then I'll need an external light to support me
Right.
and a phone stand to keep it in various positions. So all of these are things that I've invested in, and in future hopefully a lot more better equipments for better videos.
Okay. And in terms of how you produce those videos, what has changed from the time 4 years is a fairly long stretch
Yes.
in a game like this. And you put out roughly how many videos in a month?
So I probably do 4 videos a week, so we can say
Wow.
16 to 20
15, 16.
maybe.
So every alternate day you have a new video.
Yes, I'll have
Wow,
to
that's
have a new video. I'll have to keep the engagement up because Instagram is a little cruel when it comes to engagement and algorithm. So you have to keep up to the race.
so it's an insane schedule to keep up.
Yes,
So
yes,
what are you
definitely.
looking for? Where are you looking for inspiration? I know what the other creators do, but since
Mhm.
you're looking very specifically at what within fashion and within well-being, how do you zoom in on a subject that you know is? Do you look at trends? Do you look at the way people respond, or do your viewers themselves suggest things to you?
So I take like a different approach. Like I'll just look at real day to day activities. I would
Yeah.
probably be sitting on my table having my breakfast, and one idea will pop up and be like, I should talk about this. I should put this out there. I think people will
Okay.
relate to it. And then I'll start scripting and I'll make that video and put it out. Like I won't think so much. And I think
Okay.
day to day life is a very big inspiration. Like your own experiences can be content for you.
Yes. And that's the thing that people, I think, don't seem to understand, in the sense that they've gone through it and they think,
Yeah.
oh, but this is not really going to be, that
Yeah, a
interesting.
lot
Or
of people think they have to do what the others are doing, like a particular trend. For me, it's like you have to do this, but you also have to do that. Like you can follow the trend, but also be yourself. Like put out your own content in your own creativity. That's where they'll be like, oh, she's a balance of both, so it's fine. Yeah.
great. So here comes Arati again.
Yeah, Ria. So,
Yeah.
if you could go back to your very first post as an influencer, what advice would you give yourself?
Um, I would actually, I wouldn't give myself any advice because I think I learned through my mistakes and I just want it to be that way. I don't want to change anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a very sound bit of advice, Ria, because there is no one way. There is always a combination of circumstances that happen. So
Yep.
thanks, Arati. Yeah. And okay, which post or which set of posts that started out with your thinking that it may have been a mistake sort of changed over time? Or is it that you didn't really focus on any one? It wasn't a phase. Or you're just doing stuff and then, some of those do very well. And how do you evolve? That is, I'm trying to understand how that works.
So there are certain times where I wouldn't have given my 100% into a video and I just put it out there. And then I feel guilty later. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have done this better. I should have done that better. And also, because I made those mistakes, like now when I look back at my older videos, I thoroughly understand what I should do right now and what I should change now. So that has helped me. So I think making mistakes are really good. Like you just need to make mistakes to
Yeah,
become
yeah.
better.
Yeah, and I don't think you can get away from that whole thing,
Yeah,
because it's not as if every single video that you make, or anyone, even the most
exactly.
accomplished people who are coming out with
Yeah,
new content, is not really going to change.
yeah.
Okay, the other thing is that, do you believe in um, a kind of story kind of content, or do you believe in more being in the moment kind of content?
Um, I think stories about being in the moment is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So
you, yeah. So go
So
ahead, Ria, tell me.
people do love listening to stories, but if it is about something that is in the moment and relevant, would be great. Is what I meant.
Okay. Okay. And what would you say are the big changes that have come about in your personal understanding of social media over the last 4 years?
Um, I would say it is not like a lot of people think social media is very cruel and it's not a healthy space to be in, but I have learned that there is another side to social media where creators are striving to make it better, and It's only recently started, so I hope that area, that sector blooms. And another thing is, social media is very powerful. It's very, very, very powerful. It can make or break anyone or anything. That's something I learned.
Okay. Okay. And how do you see this? Have you looked at branching out into some other kind of medium, or are you looking at launching a fashion line at some point? Is that something that you would?
I do have I do have
Okay.
plans for launching my own fashion line. And I've been having this dream for years of opening my own cafe because I love coffee, and I really do want to do that later.
Okay. There is something about cafes, isn't it? I mean, it's strange how thousands of years ago cafes became the place where public discourse was a point, and today it's almost reached a point where people love the atmosphere at a certain cafe. They love the. It may not just be the food and the coffee, but it is the overall feel of
Yes.
that particular cafe which seems to make a difference. So why has that become very important to young people to have, to find the vibe which is very close to your own? And give me an example of a cafe that you sort of really like going to and being in.
So I think sometimes, because I work from home, I want to break out of my home. I just want to go somewhere else and work maybe, or do something else, catch up with a friend. So I need a different atmosphere to feel a little refreshed, because staying at home, working at home, everything is at home. So I just need a break from that. So that's why I go to cafes. And second is, I love coffee and food. And also, I just feel like, so there is this cafe called Soul in Alvarpet, and
Yeah,
they have this outside dining where you can
right,
just sit outside, you can watch the sky, you'll get a lot of air, and you can just have your coffee and probably a cake or something and just be happy at
right,
that moment.
right. So
Yeah.
that's the kind of atmosphere that really appeals to you, which I think some places in Pondicherry as well have. Seoul is, of course,
Of course.
pretty
Of
close by.
course.
Yeah, yes, that's
Yeah.
the other thing. But tell me, did you ever think of a career where you went on a 9 to 5 kind of career? Or were there any of those things? Because you did a master's in business, you did an MBA,
So
then
I
you.
did work for a co-working space for a year. It was my 9 to 5 job. And
Okay,
I just feel like my creativity was fully blocked. Like, I did not have a chance to express my ideas, do what I like. And I felt
okay,
like it was so monotonous. Everything was already planned, and I couldn't get out of that track at all. It felt a little suffocating. And that's when I realized, okay, I cannot really work under a person anymore. I have to branch out. So,
yeah.
yeah.
No, that is the amazing part, that we all have our own stripes.
Yes.
So, you know, for example, I can't figure out why people find finance fascinating, because it just seems like a whole load of numbers. But there are people who can read annual reports the way that we read bestsellers. So,
Of course.
they
Of
can look
course.
at it. You
Yeah.
need them.
Yeah. That is true.
Because it's just a set of figures and it speaks to them. So I suppose each one of us has this whole set of things which are, interesting to us because of the way we are, and
Yeah.
not necessarily because of how the world is.
Yes. And I
So,
also believe every job is a job.
yeah,
If when you're dedicating your time, hard work, talent, everything into it, it is a job. Like, it doesn't have to be 9 to 5. It doesn't have to be just 2 hours. If you're working, but also should have a balance to it.
right. So, what happens with your offline friends, the friends that you meet on a regular basis? Do they give you feedback? What kind of
Of
interactions happen
course,
there?
every time I create a video, I send it to my friends, be like, what should I change? And because they give you the realist feedback, like, they're not scared to tell you that you're doing something wrong. And I absolutely love that. and that's I send them the video. I'll be like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Should I change something? And I immediately get the feedbacks and I change them. Yeah.
It's wonderful to have that, right? Those
Yes.
friends whom you can just give it out to and then say, hey, roast
I
me or
think
tell
you
me what
need that. You need those friends.
yeah, yeah. So that's the strange part, no? That you're on social media and you're interacting with people you don't know.
Hmm.
But then to really know what people think of that video, you first have to send it to people you do know.
Yes.
That's the wonderful part and the slightly difficult part of trying to understand what this whole, which is why I think, when Facebook comes out and says we need to live in the metaverse, and I said, no, you still need to live in the real world.
Yeah.
The other world is fine, but that's fine for a certain amount of time. So how have you made your friends? They were from school, from college. How have they?
From school and from college, and also through Instagram, a lot of good friends. I made a lot of
Oh,
good friends.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So do you have meetups and stuff like that, or do you figure out how you're
There,
going to?
I do meet up with like 4 to 5 of them who have the same energy as me because there's so much to talk about, and yeah, I do meet them up.
So what are the conversations about? Is it about how to do things better? Is it about your views of the world? What are the
Of
things that
course,
keep you going?
sometimes it's just about nothing about social media. It's just about life and deep conversations. I think I like that a lot. When it is about social media, we do think of what we can do differently. We brainstorm, we gather ideas, what we can do together. So it's all about that.
So are some of your other friends okay? They are from Instagram, so they also have their own channel, and
Yes,
or
yes.
is it okay? Okay, that's wonderful because that's the spirit of collaboration, which is
Of
that
course.
you're perfectly willing to talk to the other person and then say that, hey, this is what works for
Yeah.
you. Maybe this thing could have been done differently.
Yeah.
So when we started this whole conversation, you said from the impressionable or the innocent Riya to the Riya who. So, what is this Riya going to tell that Riya?
I will just honestly tell her to keep putting herself out there
Okay.
and don't be afraid of any judgment and be yourself. You're doing great. I'll just tell her that.
Yeah.
A big pat
And
on
that
her
is,
back.
yeah. And that's often the biggest. So, is this soul satisfying or is this a profession which is something that you think will be uh, a goal that you work towards, or do you think that you're discovering this as you go along?
I think this the job I'm doing right now is very satisfying because it's a one man show. Like I do almost everything. I hold the strings of the puppet. So I know what I want to do, what I'm going to do. But
Okay.
along with that, I will keep discovering new things and learning new things. So yeah.
Okay. And where does what are the kind of things that movies that you see, books that you read, what inspires you?
Um Movies. Okay, I love horror movies.
Wow.
I I am so invested in watching horror movies because it's just so unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen. So that keeps me, like really
And you
intrigued
prefer
to
them to
watch.
be your good, your nighttime consumption just before you go.
Of course. I have a gang where we only watch horror movies.
But tell me, doesn't the horror as a genre, you either like it or you don't. It's
Mhm.
one of those things which is very
Yes.
clear. You either like horror, you can't stand it. So,
Yeah.
but it's obviously you. It's not as if you've. It's like cake. You either like it or you you don't. But then, y- are you saying that horror is something that manages to sort of entertain you with all the plots that you've seen and everything, it's still one of those things like action films, horror is what you would keep going back to.
Yes.
Okay, not bad. That's a
I love horror movies. I love how they bring out the weirdest idea and make it a movie. And I'm like,
it's
wow, you did that. It amazes me always. Because action, you can see action on a day to day basis, like
right,
fights and all that. But
right.
horror, no. You'll only get to see it in a movie, thankfully.
Thankfully, yes.
Yeah.
What about humor or comedy? You think, okay,
Oh,
that was simply
I
smart,
love
right?
rom-coms. I love rom-coms. It's a break
Okay,
from reality, so rom-coms are
okay,
good.
okay. And what about reading the original old books? Do you like books, or do you think that they are not really your cup of tea?
I used to read books. I used to love Agatha Christie, the murder novels and all that.
Right, right,
So Nancy Drew and all. I used to
right,
read all
right.
those. Yeah,
No, those were the authors who really brought up entire generations of people because
of
a lot of
course.
people learned to like law because of Earl Stanley
Yeah,
Gardner, and Perry Mason. People discovered P.G. Wodehouse and then said, okay, that is the humor and the way it's written.
yeah.
Is humor? I've seen a fair number of creators on, in well-being and health and those because those are subjects which are very close to people. But stand up is another thing that I've seen really grow in leaps and bounds.
Yes.
Do you think stand up is hard to do? Do you enjoy stand up? Do you like some of the people?
I love stand-up comedy, but I think you need to be really intelligent and quick-witted to come up with a joke at that right time. I find it so fascinating because they don't have time to think. Like you say something and they'll make a joke out of it, and I'm like, how do you do that? It's so cool. So
Yeah.
I love stand-up comedy. And another thing is, they their whole goal is to make people laugh and have a good time. Even if they are having a bad time, they make sure you have a good time. So I really respect that.
And it's one of those professions where you don't have any props, right? In most
Yes.
cases,
It's
if
just
it's
you
a
and your
theater,
words.
and your mic, and
Yeah.
like you said, I'm astounded at how they can hold interest. And today's
Yes.
generation is someone is supposed to be, starved of attention. They don't really get there. So how do they manage
Mm.
to actually do all of that? Which is amazing, Ria. So, in terms of, I think we are almost out of time. It was. Let me just ask my young friends if they have something to. So, is there something that you want to
Yeah.
ask, Tanya?
Yes, sir. Hi, Ria. Just one final question.
Yeah, sure.
So I just want to know how has this whole experience changed you personally? Like how you mentioned that, you met somebody at the mall and they said, that you changed their life, and even like online, the positive and the negative comments like you mentioned earlier. Like how has that made you stronger, and has it made you like much more like different in a way?
I just feel like I have a strong sense of who I am and what I'm good at right now, because those hate comments made me realize that that is just rubbish. Like
Yeah.
nobody's allowed to talk to me like that. So I think I found a lot of self-respect and self-love through all of that hate, and also I think the fact that my audience also shows me a lot of love has given me a boost. So that helped a lot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Ria.
Thank you.
Um, Sort of instructions, advice, though you said that you'd prefer to let people make their own mistakes and then sort of take it from there. But what are your, let's say, immediate goals in the next few? You're not a person who, I mean, numbers is part of the game, so you can't afford to neglect it altogether. So there is a point at which. But do these numbers fluctuate? Do you find phases when your followers increase, and then there's a time when it's kind of flat for a while and then it goes up again? Do you then try and figure out what exactly is happening?
So there are times where I take a break from social media and I do it very often. Like I don't post for 5 to 6 days together or probably a week. That's when my engagement goes down. I thankfully don't lose followers, but it stays stagnant. So to bring it back up, I have to really put out a lot of videos later and I have to really be like, I'm so sorry, I wasn't there. So I have to apologize for all of that. But yeah, there are times where it's just stagnant. Like whatever you do, it does not budge. So that's hard.
Okay. It's quite a, like you said, if stand up guys have to think of new and witty things all the time, you have to think of ways of engaging people, which is again not easy because
Yeah.
when they look at you, they shouldn't say that, hey, isn't this what you said last time? Because there's this whole thing about people consuming so much of content today and still trying to make it different, which is, you know, going to be a challenge. But how do you get around that? Or is it that you just live on day to day, week to week, and then figure things out?
Yeah, so obviously, keeping the fact that I am a creator aside, I also use Instagram and I also look at what other creators are doing from a third person point of view. And I
Right.
will feel like, oh, this particular thing is so saturated. This is being repeated by everybody. I shouldn't do this. So I have like an understanding of these things I shouldn't be doing because everyone is doing it anyway. So I'll be doing something different out of that.
Great. Thank you so much, Riya, for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And here's wishing you the very best on your journey ahead.
Thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you. It felt really like a breath of fresh air. To everyone who came up in between and spoke to me, asked me questions, I'm really happy that you did. So thank you so much and congratulations on your 100th episode. May there be 100 more.
On that wonderful note, bye bye, Riya. All the